The aircraft is cruising at 10 kilometers above the ground, about 3 times the height of Mount Fansipan. You look out the window and see clouds drifting like cotton. Suddenly, the plane starts to shake. Your heart shakes with it, and a cinematic thought flashes through your mind. What if every seat had a parachute so I could just escape on my own? Sounds cool. Right, like an action movie. Hair whipping in the wind. You leap out the door. Deploy your chute against a bright blue sky. Music swells, slow motion. Trust me, that is one of the worst ideas ever invented, because at that altitude, the sky isn't an Instagram backdrop. It's a genuinely hostile environment. And if you actually jumped out, everything would end so quickly, you wouldn't even finish saying, "Wait, what?" So, what would really happen if you somehow managed to open the door and jump? Picture it carefully, because this dark comedy has no happy ending. Let's assume that by some supernatural force, you managed to open the aircraft door at 10 kilometers. The first thing greeting you isn't a cool breeze. It's minus 60 degrees Celsius. That's colder than an industrial freezer used to store Norwegian salmon. Cold enough that your skin starts going numb within seconds. But you might not even feel the cold yet. Up there, the air is so thin that oxygen levels are only about a third of what they are at sea level. Your brain is incredibly picky. It needs a constant supply of oxygen. Cut that supply for just a few seconds and it starts protesting. The scientific term is hypoxia, or oxygen deprivation. In simple terms, dizziness, confusion, and possibly losing consciousness within 10 to 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Not even enough time to pull out your phone and record a story. Now imagine you're a limitless budget version of Captain America, equipped with thermal protection and your own oxygen supply. Great! You think you're safe? Not quite. Commercial jets travel at roughly 900 to 1. Nula Kimar. H. That means nearly 250 meters every second, about 2 football fields back to back. When you step out, you don't fall gently. You slam straight into a torrent of air moving at that speed. At that point, air stops feeling like air. It becomes an invisible concrete wall. You'd be yanked backward, spun violently like a leaf in a storm. And if you were unlucky enough to be near the wing, the massive jet engine beneath it is ready to suck in anything nearby like an industrial-sized blender. Still feel like jumping. But wait. The bigger question is, could you even open that door? You've seen action movies where the hero kicks open an aircraft door and dives out dramatically. Hollywood owes us an apology. Commercial aircraft doors don't open outward like the door to your house. They're plug doors. Imagine a champagne cork, except instead of being inserted from above, it's fitted from the inside and pressed tightly into the frame. At cruising altitude, the cabin is pressurized so you can breathe normally. The pressure inside is much higher than outside. That difference creates a massive force pushing the door firmly into place. How massive? A typical door has an area of over 1 square meter. The pressure difference can generate tens of tons of force pressing it shut, equivalent to several trucks pushing against it from the inside. Even the Hulk would struggle to budge it. So, at cruising altitude, you simply cannot open the door. Not because airlines are stingy, but because physics says no. There's only one alternative: designing aircraft with large rear ramps like military transport planes, where pressure can be equalized before opening. Passenger jets aren't built for a mass skydiving event involving 200 people. And here's the interesting twist. The entire airplane is already designed like a giant glider. Even if engines fail, it can still glide and land gradually. Aviation history has recorded multiple cases like this. So if skydiving isn't physically feasible, why do we keep loving the idea? Humans hate feeling powerless. When you sit on a plane, you don't hold the steering wheel. You don't hit the brakes. You control nothing. You just sit and trust. And that makes your brain uncomfortable. So we imagine a solution. Give me a parachute. At least I'll have a choice. Sounds logical. But close your eyes and picture this. The aircraft is shaking violently. Warning lights flash. Oxygen masks drop. Inside the cabin are 200 people. elderly passengers trembling, children crying, someone desperately trying to call a loved one. Now imagine asking everyone to calmly put on protective gear, secure a parachute correctly, wait their turn, open the door, and jump in sequence. That's not a rescue plan. That's an airborne circus of chaos. Not to mention that each parachute system could weigh dozens of kilograms. Multiply that by 200 passengers. The aircraft would carry several extra tons of weight. More weight means more fuel consumption. More fuel means higher ticket prices, all for a scenario that's almost impossible to execute. And here comes the final slap of reality. Statistics show that most aviation accidents happen during takeoff or landing. At those altitudes, it's too low for a parachute to deploy and stabilize. Jumping out would only make you hit the ground faster. A parachute isn't a magical charm. At cruising altitude, it's basically an express ticket to disaster. At low altitude, it's just decorative gear. What actually saves your life? That small seatbelt across your waist, the rigorous pilot training, safety procedures so strict they feel obsessive, and the unified engineering of the aircraft gliding above you. Next time you fly, if the plane trembles slightly and you start thinking about skydiving, look down at that humble seatbelt. Give it a little tap. That's the real silent final boss. And if you still feel tempted to jump at 10 kilometers, maybe start by exploring more of those sounds cool but actually foolish secrets hidden in the laws of physics. Trust me, reality is far more fascinating than any movie.